Welcome back. A big day for the GOP. House Republicans will soon be unveiling a midterm strategy plan called the Commitment to America. This new program aims to refocus the GOP campaign on kitchen table issues such as inflation. It's already drawing comparisons to Newt Gingrich's contract with America, which helped power Republicans to a majority back in 1994. New reports showing the U.S. has been sending private messages to Russia warning Moscow against using nuclear weapons. We're going to talk about that right now. Russia's Vladimir Putin threatening the world on nuclear weaponry. Let's get into the GOP plan and our foreign policy issues with Michael McCaul. He is joining me right now. And Congressman, it's great to have you on the program this morning.
Oh, thanks, Marie. It's great to be on your show in Main Street, America, here outside of Pittsburgh, in a steel plant with real Americans talking about our commitment to America.
So tell me about the commitment to America. I want to get into the foreign policy end of it because should you win the majority, will you become chairman of that committee?
Yes, I will. And you know what's exciting, Maria? We're offering an alternative. A more positive vision for America, for a stronger economy, stronger national security, something that we're not seeing today. I mean, you just gave your report on the stock market and how, you know, we're in an inflationary period, possibly in a recession. And from my vantage point on national security issues, it's a very dangerous world right now under President Biden and the Democrats. Just look at the debacle in Afghanistan. You know, what happened there, which led to inviting aggression, because weakness always invites aggression. So Putin invading Ukraine, and now Chairman Xi in China. China's on the march, and they're getting very provocative, and I'm very concerned about what's going to come next there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to talk first about these economic issues because inflation is the #1 issue in terms of the American people. But it seems that over the last couple of months, the Democrats did get a bit of a boost after the Dobbs decision. How important is that, do you think, in this upcoming election?
You know, it's not what I'm hearing here in Pittsburgh or back home and where I live in Texas. It's just not an issue that really comes up a lot. I think that's more of a D.C. Beltway bubble thing. You know, that's really all the Democrats seem to have to talk about. We're talking about the real issues, the kitchen table issues that Americans really care about, and that is, how much does it cost when I go to the grocery store? How much does it cost to fill my tank up with gas? The inflation that's going on. It's very reminiscent, Maria, of 1979 when Jimmy Carter was in the White House, and it really took a Ronald Reagan to rise out of the ashes and change the course of America. And I think that's a very similar point where we are today.
Well, Congressman, it's not just economic issues, but the foreign policy mistakes that this administration has made have, in fact, put America in a more vulnerable position, whether it be China on the march or Russia. We've got new reports showing that the U.S. has been sending private messages to Russia, warning Moscow against using nuclear weapons. Putin has threatened to use nuclear weapons again this week, calling for the activation of 300,000 reserve troops. Congressman, what do you think this is about? Assess the situation for us in Russia.
Ukrainians have had a very good counteroffensive, I have to say. But all along, even before the invasion, I was an advocate for putting these weapons before the invasion and putting the better weapons in, the smart weapons in, to defeat the Russians. You know, the administration's been slow walking this, and we finally have the HIMARS in, but we could use the longer range artillery to finish this once and for all. I really applaud the Ukrainians. The administration's been very slow to respond to that. But, you know, the conscription of 300,000 is almost laughable because he doesn't have the forces trained, and he's actually taking people out of the prisons to fight, to fight against the Ukrainians. So, but, you know, this should have been done a long time ago. And when I met with our ambassador to China in a classified space, he said, if you want to stop and deter China from Taiwan, it's important that Ukraine prevails against Russia.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that one element of taking people out of prisons. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have the wherewithal. This is such an important point that you make. But speaking of prisons, we understand that there are several countries that are unloading prisons, and they're coming to the United States at the southern border. Can you confirm that? Because border agents told me that they have intelligence that there are many countries unloading their prisons, and those prisoners are coming to America through the wide open border.
Well, I do know out of Venezuela there's a mass exodus into Colombia, and they come up because the border is wide open after this administration reversed the policies that President Trump gave to secure it. There's always been talk of prisons being let open and them fleeing up to the United States. That's a problem, Maria. We don't know what's coming in, right? We do know fentanyl's coming in, the #1 killer now of our children. But we don't know, like, the terror watch list, which I was always worried about as chairman of Homeland Security. And who is really coming in this country? We have no accountability, and it's the biggest human trafficking event of my lifetime. This is going to be a big issue, I think, in this midterm election as well, that we'll be talking about here today in Pittsburgh.
Meanwhile, President Biden making an appearance on the world stage this week at the UN General Assembly. The video of him seemingly confused on stage. I mean, did you see this video? He was totally lost while on stage, getting a lot of attention there. He was also ending his speech that people were criticizing. Watch this.
According to those who excavated those bodies, a roadmap eliminating global food insecurity, to eliminating global food insecurity. We urge the Venezuelan-led dialogue and return to free and fair elections. Thank you for your tolerance, for listening to me.
Wow. Congressman, your thoughts on the UN appearance?
Again, Maria, when you project strength, you have peace. When you project weakness like this, how could any country look at this performance and not think about weakness and maybe incompetence? And that is inviting this aggression that I've been talking about, from Putin to the unholy alliance with Chairman Xi to now the Ayatollah in Iran, who they're still trying to cut a deal with, even though they're completely not reporting the undisclosed sites with the uranium. So this is really dangerous, quite honestly, because it's making the world stage a far more dangerous world.
I mean, did we have to issue visas for the head of Iran to come to America to go to the UN General Assembly, right? The State Department issued a visa, and they also issued a visa for Sergei Lavrov. After all he's done in Ukraine, this administration, issuing a visa for him to come to the UN?
Well, in Iran, just 2 days ago, they took a young woman who had not worn her hijab correctly, her hair was coming out, threw her against the wall repeatedly and killed her, right? And there are riots in the streets, and yet we're bringing them into New York and having these negotiations with them over the Iran deal. They have no intent of a peaceful nuclear energy program. It's a nuclear bomb, and we need to make that clear that we will not accept that.
And you're making things clear today with your contract for America. We'll be watching all of that. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks for having me.
All right, Michael McCaul this morning in Pittsburgh. We'll be right back.
At Amazon.